beloved child. There are seasons in your life that do not arrive with the noise of upheaval, but with a subtle shift in the rhythm of the soul. You may not be able to pinpoint the exact moment it began, yet you know unmistakably when it has arrived. It is when the things that once brought you comfort begin to feel constricting, when familiar paths no longer give you a sense of belonging, and when the questions you once avoided return, knocking persistently at the door of your mind. I marked this moment long ago not to unsettle you, but to awaken you, for no growth occurs in spiritual sleep, and no calling is unveiled while the soul remains tucked away in an outdated zone of safety. When I placed you in this current, I knew you would feel the tension between what is familiar and what is approaching, between the certainty of yesterday and the invitation of tomorrow. And it is within that tension that your true nature is revealed. You once believed that the years of waiting were empty. That silence was a sign of my delay. But hear me clearly, no moment is ever wasted in my hands. The quiet stretches you perceived as barren were, in truth, layers of soil being turned over, prepared for seeds carrying far greater life than you ever imagined. I allowed you to remain long enough in places that forced you to face yourself, so that you would no longer rely on the voice of the crowd, nor continue to flee from the truth growing within you. Just as Abraham was called to leave his familiar homeland and step into a land he had never known, you are being led beyond old boundaries to learn trust, not in the map you hold, but in the one who leads. And that trust is not formed in favorable conditions, but in the very uncertainty that now surrounds you. The marked moment is not a reward for those who are flawless, it is an invitation for those who are willing. You do not need to understand everything that is about to unfold in order to move forward. You only need the courage to place your feet on the foundation I have prepared. I know you are afraid, because human nature seeks control, and this moment requires you to release many things you once believed were indispensable. Remember that Moses could not see the entire journey when he stood before the burning bush. He only knew that a voice was calling out from the wilderness, and that voice was powerful enough to alter the course of an entire people's history. In the same way, I am calling you at this moment not because you are fully prepared in every way, but because I know you are ready to obey. And obedience, when placed in my hands, becomes the key that opens doors your mind has never dared to imagine. Understand that this moment does not concern you alone. It is also tied to people you have not yet met, stories that have not yet been told, and effects that will extend far beyond the boundaries of your personal life. Every soul that is called carries a portion of influence that only they can release. When I marked this hour, I did not see only your footsteps, I also saw the paths that would open behind you for others to follow. Just as Esther was positioned as queen for such a time as this, you are standing at a crossroads where your choice will echo beyond the present. I do not pressure you with fear, but I awaken you with the awareness that your life carries weight, and that every decision bears far-reaching consequence. The trembling you feel is not a sign of destruction. It is evidence that you are standing closer to the center of purpose than ever before. Let your heart grow still, not to delay, but to listen. In that stillness, you will realize that I have never been absent. I was present in every step you took, even the misguided ones. I was present in every tear you hid, even those you never named. This marked moment does not come to erase your past, but to redefine it. The cracks that once filled you with shame will become places where light enters. The failures that caused you to doubt yourself will become the ground from which compassion and wisdom grow. When you understand that I can use everything, even what you wish you had never endured, fear will slowly give way to trust. And within that trust, you will cross the threshold of this moment, not as one being pushed forward, but as one who is sent, The marked moment within the eternal flow does not ask whether you are fully prepared, it asks whether you are willing to respond. I do not need you to be strong by the world's definition. I need you to be faithful to the call resounding deep within your soul. When you respond, I will take care of the rest. I will go before you to clear the way, walk beside you to sustain you, and remain behind you to guard you. And when you look back, you will realize that the moment you believed yourself weakest was, in fact, the moment you stepped into true strength, the strength that comes from moving at the right time, within the right current, under my guidance, my child. There are seasons in your life when I do not speak much in words, when I do not act in the way you expect, when I do not immediately answer the prayers you have repeated until you were weary. And it is precisely in those seasons that you are most tempted to believe, I have withdrawn, that heaven has closed, that you are walking alone through a vast emptiness. But hear me, my child, silence has never meant absence. On the contrary, some of my deepest work can only be done in silence, where no noise of the world can intrude, where your soul must release its grip on external signals and learn to discern movement from within. I allowed you to remain in that silence, not merely to test your patience, but to soften the layers of defense you built around your heart, layers that caused you to hear without truly listening, to see without truly perceiving. My beloved child, you have grown accustomed to measuring my presence through visible signs, an open door, a confirmation, a tangible outcome. But I am teaching you a deeper way of knowing, one in which you learn to sense me even when there is no evidence before your eyes. Just as Elijah discovered that I was not in the strong wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in the gentle whisper, so you are being led into a new sensitivity, where your soul learns to respond to what is subtle. That silence is not emptiness, it is sacred space, where I remove from you voices that are not mine, the expectations of others, fears inherited from the past, and even ambitions dressed in holiness but not rooted in true purpose. In silence, there is nowhere left to hide, and it is there that truth begins to speak. I know there are nights when you lie awake, your heart filled with questions that seem to have no answers. You wonder whether you are on the wrong path, whether the years of waiting have meant anything, whether the promises you once believed still stand. But my child, those very questions are shaping you to carry the weight of the answers that are coming. If I were to give you revelation before you had the depth to hold it, the gift would become a burden. That is why I allow you to remain long enough in silence to learn how to stand without constant reassurance, to learn how to trust, not because I have just done something, but because I am who I am. Mature faith is not faith that survives only on miracles. It is faith that stands upright even when the miracle has not yet appeared. Silence is also the place where I recalibrate your vision. When the noise outside grows quiet, hidden motives begin to surface. You may realize that some of the things you once prayed for were not truly aligned with the purpose I placed within you, but were instead tied to your need for safety, recognition, or control over the future. I do not condemn you for this. I simply invite you to grow. Just as David spent years forgotten in caves before ascending the throne, you need seasons of quiet to strip away the hunger for premature honor, so that when the time comes, you can stand in a new position without losing yourself. Silence teaches you that your worth does not come from where you stand, but from whom you belong to. I also use silence to arrange things beyond your sight. While you believe nothing is happening, I am weaving connections, adjusting circumstances, and shifting elements that, if moved too early or too late, would disrupt the entire flow. You cannot see the conversations where your name is being spoken. You do not know the decisions being made in places you have never set foot. You do not realize that there are doors I am closing to protect you from paths that appear attractive but would slowly erode your soul. My silence is a veil over the work that must be completed before you step into the next chapter. If you were to see everything from the beginning, you would not have the humility required to continue. There are moments when you believe you are ready, that just one more signal would be enough for you to move forward. But I see what you do not yet see, edges of your heart that still need refining, reactions that still rise from unhealed wounds, and beliefs that remain mixed with both light and shadow. I am not delaying to discourage you, I am delaying to preserve you. For when I open the door of the marked moment, the pressure that comes with it will be far greater than what you are bearing now. If you are not formed in silence, the noise of events would crush you. But if you have learned to stand firm in quietness, you will not be swept away when the waves rise. Allow silence to complete its work within you. Do not rush to fill it with easy answers or hurried actions. Just as a seed must be buried in dark soil before it can sprout, you need seasons of darkness for new life to take shape. No one sees that process, but its fruit will appear at the appointed time. And when that day comes, you will realize that the days when I seemed silent were the days I was speaking most deeply, not with words, but through profound transformation within you. Then you will step out of silence not as one confused, but as one firmly anchored, ready to receive a call that is clear, strong, and unmistakable. My beloved child, there will come a moment when the silence you have lived in is no longer a refuge, but a starting point. You will sense it not through reasoning, but through a strange certainty spreading from deep within your soul. The circling questions will fade. The vague waiting will give way to a clear impulse. It is time to rise and move. That call will not be loud or forceful, yet it will carry a weight you cannot pretend not to hear. It will be like the moment Jeremiah realized that the word had become a fire in his bones, impossible to hold back even when he wished to remain silent. In the same way, the call awakening within you is not meant to overwhelm you, but to stir the part of you that has long been prepared for this very hour. You will notice that what once frightened you no longer holds the same power, not because circumstances have completely changed, but because you have been changed within. The seasons of silence have taught you to discern between true and false voices, between impulses born of fear and guidance born of purpose. When the call rises, it does not pull you into chaos, it brings order. It does not drive you into darkness, it draws you toward the light. Even if you cannot yet see the entire path, I do not call you to prove anything, but to become who you were created to be. And that becoming does not happen in a single moment of glory, but through successive acts of obedience, small yet consistent choices, and repeated decisions to trust rather than withdraw. When you respond to the call, you will discover that I am not only sending you to a place, I am sending you as a presence. Wherever you go, you carry the atmosphere of what I have done within you. Others may not understand the journey you have walked, but they will sense the depth, the steadiness, and the light that radiate from you. Just as Joseph did not need to recount every year in prison to govern with wisdom, you do not need to explain every wound in order to walk in new authority. What I have done in secret will reveal itself through how you respond, how you listen, how you love, and how you stand firm in situations that once caused you to collapse. This sending does not exempt you from trials. On the contrary, it will lead you into spaces where faith is tested at deeper levels. But remember, I do not send you alone. Every step you take is within my sight, Every burden you carry is carefully measured. I do not place upon you responsibilities beyond the grace I provide. If at times you feel as though you are walking on water, it is because I am right there, ready to reach out when you need me. And even if your eyes drift to the waves, I do not allow you to sink in shame. I use that moment to teach you that true safety is not found in perfection, but in the unbroken bond between you and me. The rising call will also clarify the relationships in your life. Some will walk with you into the new season, renewed and encouraged alongside you. Others will stop at this crossroads, not out of ill will, but because they are called to a different journey. I invite you to learn how to release without bitterness, to respect the pace of others without losing your own. The maturity of the soul is revealed not in how tightly you hold on, but in how freely you let go. As you walk in that freedom, you will discover that I always provide, not always through new people, but through a deeper intimacy between you and me. Now you will see a clear flow from the marked moment, through the silence of preparation, to the call of commissioning. No part stands apart. All are woven together in a single design. I am neither hurried nor delayed. I arrive at the right time, and you, when you respond, will step into a portion of life where you no longer live merely to survive, but to carry meaning. You will understand that everything you have walked through did not only lead you here, it has equipped you for what lies ahead. Walk forward with quiet courage, steadfast faith, and deep humility. For from this point on, you are not only one who hears the call, but one who carries it forward into the spaces, the hearts, and the moments I have already prepared for light to spread. My child, as you step into a new chapter, the first thing you notice will not be doors opening outwardly, but a quiet shaking at the deepest foundations of your life. This is a season in which I am not merely adding something new, but first examining what already exists, not to condemn, but to purify. You may feel as though what once seemed stable is now being unsettled beliefs you relied on, roles you carried, definitions of yourself that you lived with for many years. My child, do not fear this shaking. It is not a sign of collapse, but proof that you are no longer standing on shallow ground. I shake only what can be shaken, so that what cannot be shaken may be revealed and remain. You once thought stability came from keeping everything intact, but I am teaching you that true stability comes from being rightly placed. Some foundations you built in the past served you for a certain season, but they do not have the depth required for the season ahead. I am not dismantling them because they were wrong, but because they have fulfilled their purpose. Just as the people of Israel had to leave their familiar tents when the pillar of cloud lifted, you are being invited to move when I begin to shift. If you cling to what I am loosening, you will only exhaust yourself. But if you trust and follow, you will discover that I never leave you suspended in uncertainty. I always prepare a firmer foundation on which you can stand. This shaking also reaches into the deeper layers of identity. You may feel unsettled when labels that once defined you no longer bring certainty, success, roles, titles, or even the images you built of yourself. I allow this so that you learn to anchor yourself not in what you do, but in who you are in me. When Peter realized he could not stand by his own strength, he broke down in tears. Yet from that place, I formed him into a rock not because of his self-confidence, but because of the unbreakable bond between him and me. In the same way, when you feel your old support slipping away, it is because I am offering you a deeper one, my presence within you. Do not mistake the shaking for punishment. It does not come to shame you, or to make you doubt your worth. It comes to free you from burdens you have carried too long without realizing it. There are responsibilities you placed upon yourself that I never asked you to bear, expectations you carried on behalf of others, fears you held tightly because you believed everything would fall apart if you let go. But hear me, what is built on me does not collapse. When you release it, it collapses only when you try to hold it by your own strength. The shaking helps you discern between what comes from me and what you constructed in an effort to survive. In this season, you may feel as though your life has entered a state of uncertainty. Plans you once made may be delayed, adjusted, or even dissolved. But remember that I am not the God of confusion. What is being dismantled is not meant to disorient you, but to reorient you. I am making you more sensitive to my guidance, so that you no longer walk by the momentum of habit, but by the awareness born of relationship. As you learn to pause and ask me before acting, you will discover that even in the shaking, there is a safe rhythm I am holding. This shifting of foundations will also affect how you view others and the world around you. You may realize that connections once based on convenience or shared need no longer fit. I am not cutting you off to make you lonely. I am separating you so that you are not dependent on relationships that no longer nourish life within you. Just as Paul had to leave many former connections to step into his new calling, you are being led through necessary adjustments so that the past does not pull you backward. Every separation in this season carries a healing purpose. Even when it is initially painful, let the shaking finish its work. Do not rush to rebuild what I am dismantling. And do not panic at the temporary gaps. Those gaps are not failure. They are space for me to lay a new foundation. When this work is complete, you will stand on ground no longer governed by the fear of loss, no longer confined by old definitions, and no longer trembling at the changes ahead. You will realize that what seemed to be wavering was, in fact, carrying you into a deeper stability than you have ever known, a stability not produced by steady circumstances, but by being rightly placed in me, my beloved child. There comes a point in the journey when you cannot go farther, while what has been hidden remains untouched in the dark. This is not the season for me to add something new to your life. It is the season for me to bring light into the corners you once avoided, the places you learned to conceal even from yourself. You may feel disoriented when truths you buried begin to rise. When stories you thought were closed return in ways you never expected. But hear me, this unveiling is not to condemn you, but to heal you. No lasting freedom is built on a foundation of concealment, and no wholeness is formed while parts of you remain beyond the reach of light. I know you learned to live with those blurred areas. You called them the past, something not worth revisiting, what everyone has. But I see beyond what you can see. I see how what is unresolved quietly shapes your choices, how it influences your reactions when new situations arise, how it pulls you back into cycles you cannot fully explain. The light I bring does not expose you to shame you. It separates you from the invisible cords that have been binding you. Just as Isaiah saw my holiness and became aware of his own condition, that awareness did not destroy him. It opened the way for cleansing and commissioning. Light always carries the intention of restoration. In this season, you may feel conflicting emotions, relief that truth is finally named, and pain as you face what you once buried. Do not conclude that you are moving backward. Seeing more clearly does not mean you have become worse. It means you are growing. When light enters a dark room, the dust is not created, it is revealed. And only what is revealed can be cleared away. I am not demanding that you cleanse everything by your own strength. I am inviting you to open the door to the light, and then to let me do what only I can do. This unveiling will also touch your relationships. Some connections were built on what was never spoken, on unspoken agreements, on long-held silence. When light arrives, those structures will no longer stand as they once did. Some relationships will be healed through renewed honesty. Others will naturally dissolve because they cannot survive outside the dark. Do not fear loss in this season. I do not remove anything essential to your future. Whatever leaves because of light only proves it was not built on what is true, and whatever remains will be deeper, purer, and far more enduring. I also use light to correct the way you see yourself. You may discover that some images you carry of who you are not fully aligned with truth. Either you diminished yourself because of old wounds, or you built a strong outer shell to hide the fragility within. Light does not push you into either extreme. It leads you into honesty. In honesty, you do not need to exaggerate or deny. You are free to be yourself, a person being transformed. Imperfect, yet fully loved. And when you stop running from the truth about yourself, you will stop being afraid of the truth about others. Unveiling is not the destination, it is a necessary passage. I do not draw you into the light to leave you exposed and confused. I draw you out to clothe you with a clearer, lighter identity. What once made you ashamed will lose its power when it is placed under the light of grace. What once frightened you will no longer control you when you face it with me. Light does not only show you what is wrong, it shows you the right path opening just ahead. Trust me in this process. Do not rush back into darkness simply because the first brightness feels blinding. Your eyes will adjust. Your heart will grow lighter. And when this season is complete, you will realize you are walking with greater freedom, deeper clarity, and a courage that does not come from hiding, but from having nothing left to hide. The light has done its work, and you are being prepared to continue, no longer carrying yesterday's shadows, but carrying a purity strong enough to face whatever waits ahead. My child, after light has shone and what was hidden can no longer remain concealed, your soul enters an even deeper phase, the phase of accepting truth and allowing a new order to be established from within. This is not a dramatic moment, nor an explosive event. It often unfolds quietly, steadily, and it requires a maturity you cannot pretend to possess. Truth, when merely seen, can still unsettle you, but when accepted, it begins to lose the power to wound and becomes a foundation for freedom. I did not lead you into the light to leave you disoriented. I led you there so you could learn to stay, to breathe deeply, and to agree with the healing that is taking place. Accepting truth does not mean approving everything that happened, nor does it mean excusing harm or failure. Acceptance is the moment you stop fighting reality, stop trying to rewrite the past through denial, and stop spending your strength to keep old structures from collapsing. When you accept, you are not surrendering. You are releasing false control to receive true guidance. Just as Jacob had to face who he truly was before he could be called by a new name, you must face the truth about yourself to step into renewed identity. I do not rename those who still cling to the old mask, because that mask cannot carry the weight of the new assignment. In this process, you will see that many inner conflicts were never rooted in outward circumstances, but in inward division. You wanted to move forward, yet you kept what pulled you back. You prayed for freedom, yet you feared losing what was familiar. When truth is accepted, those contradictions begin to dissolve, not because every question is answered, but because you are no longer torn in two directions. Inner order is rebuilt when you know where you stand, what is essential, and what is no longer needed for the road ahead. From that place, Peace is no longer a fragile emotion. It becomes a stable condition. This rebuilding will directly reshape how you respond to pressure. What once triggered you into defense, anger, or withdrawal will not activate you as easily as before, not because you have grown numb, but because you have become anchored. Your anchor is not that circumstances have become easier. Your anchor is that you no longer lose yourself when circumstances shift. I am teaching you how to stand steady within the current without being swept away, how to listen without being drowned, and how to respond without reacting from old wounds. As Daniel remained steady and holy in a court full of upheaval, you too are learning to live with inner order even when the world around you feels unstable. When inner order is restored, the rhythm of your life begins to change as well. You no longer chase every opportunity out of fear of missing out. No longer take on every responsibility just to be acknowledged. And no longer allow the noise of the world to dictate your direction. I am training you in discernment so you know what to say yes to, what to say not yet to, and what to say no to. Discernment is not strategic cleverness. It is the fruit of a reordered mind, where priorities are rightly placed and values are no longer confused. As you live by this rhythm, you will be surprised to find your energy restored, your clarity sharpened, and a quiet joy returning, the joy of one who no longer lives in a constant state of urgency. In the past, you may have confused love with unconditional self-sacrifice, responsibility with burden, presence with intrusion. This new order teaches you that boundaries are not expressions of selfishness. They are necessary conditions for life to be sustained. I am not calling you to become closed off or distant. I am calling you to become selective. When you are selective, you protect what I am building within you, so it is not eroded by demands that do not belong to your calling. And it is precisely within that protection that you can love more freely, give without being depleted, and be present without losing your identity. There will be moments when you question this process. You will wonder whether you have truly changed or are merely adapting better to old pain. I know those questions, and I do not fault you for them. But look at the quiet signs. You react less. Yet with greater depth, you no longer need to prove your worth. Yet you walk with clarity. You can be alone without loneliness, and among many without dissolving. These signs do not come from effort, but from an inner reordering. True transformation does not always impress, but it endures. It does not seek attention, yet it stands firm under testing. This season of restoring order is not the destination, it is the bridge. It connects your purification to your entrustment. I am making the inner foundation strong enough to carry the weight of what is coming, the weight of responsibility, of influence, of the trust others will place in you. If you were to step into entrustment while inner order remained chaotic, the very gift given would become a burden. But when you move forward from a place that has been reordered, you will carry responsibility without being crushed by it. I was with you in the shaking of the foundations. I was with you in the light of exposure. And I am with you now in this quiet work of rebuilding. Do not underestimate the present season simply because it is not loud. Many of the most important structures are built in silence. When order is established, you will not need to convince yourself that you are ready. You will know. And when you step into the next chapter, you will do so not with fleeting enthusiasm, but with deep steadiness, a steadiness that comes from being rightly placed, at the right time, within the right current of my intention for you, my beloved. After inner order has been rebuilt, you will sense a new movement taking place, no longer aimed at healing what was broken, but at receiving what is being entrusted. This is the moment of entrustment, not as a formal ceremony, but as a quiet reality that requires you to step up. I do not entrust when you are still wavering between identities. I entrust when you know where you belong. When you no longer need external validation to stand firm. Entrustment does not make you stand out in the eyes of the world. It makes you accountable to what I am doing in and through you. And this responsibility is not as heavy as you once feared, because it rests on shoulders refined through shaking, exposure, and reordered life. You may be surprised to discover that entrustment does not arrive with intense exhilaration, but with a gentle seriousness. You will find yourself less inclined to postpone, less comfortable avoiding, and less satisfied with what is merely good enough, not because you have become harsh with yourself, but because you have perceived the weight of influence. Every choice now carries farther, every word leaves an echo, even silence becomes a message. I do not entrust you to bind you under the pressure of perfection, but to invite you into faithfulness, a faithfulness measured not by immediate results, but by consistency in small things. Entrustment often comes with an expanded vision. You begin to see larger patterns, where your life is no longer an isolated story but part of a network of relationships, moments, and needs beyond personal benefit. You will realize that the experiences you have walked through, even the failures you once felt ashamed of, have become a language through which you understand others. I waste nothing. I repurpose everything that has been offered. Just as Moses once believed his past was a liability, I transformed that very past into an instrument to lead a people. In the same way, I am gathering every fragment of your life to form a capacity for service aligned with the calling entrusted to you. As responsibility settles upon your shoulders, you will feel more keenly the need for inner discipline. Not a harsh discipline that makes you rigid, but a discipline that keeps your rhythm. You will notice that habits, once harmless, no longer fit, and choices once flexible now require greater care. I am not narrowing your life, I am refining it. Every refinement is a way I protect you from trading what matters for what is merely urgent. As you learn to honor the rhythm given to you, you will find endurance increasing, clarity sharpening, and joy arising from living centered and true. New responsibility also requires that you learn how to stand alone without becoming isolated. There will be decisions you cannot delegate to others, choices you must make in silence, and moments when you must trust what I have planted within you more than the consensus around you. This does not distance you from others, it matures you. Just as Joshua stood before the people with a clear declaration, you too will learn to speak what you believe, with humility and resolve. I am not seeking those who are liked by everyone. I am seeking those who are trustworthy. You will begin to see the difference between activity and effectiveness. You may do less, yet create a deeper impact. I am teaching you to discern between busyness and fruitfulness, between noise and true influence. When you live from a centered and ordered core, your actions carry a consistency that gives others a sense of safety and direction. You do not need to speak much to be heard. Your presence is already clear. And within that clarity, I open doors that do not come from striving, but from recognition. Others perceive in you what they are in need of. Entrustment does not exempt you from mistakes. I do not expect you to never stumble. I expect you to return quickly. Mature responsibility is not found in avoiding every error, but in how you respond when errors occur. When you keep a soft heart, correct yourself, and refuse to hide. Your authority is not diminished, it is refined. I do not build authority on a flawless image, but on enduring honesty. Those who are truly entrusted are not afraid of the light, because they have nothing left to conceal. Remember that entrustment is always accompanied by companionship. I do not place you in a new position and then step away. I draw nearer. Increased responsibility does not widen the distance between you and me. It deepens our communion. You will need me more. Listen to me more attentively, and rely on me more fully. And within that reliance, you will discover a paradox when you carry greater responsibility. The burden becomes lighter, not because it is smaller, but because you are no longer carrying it alone. Entrustment has begun, not with trumpets, not with display, but with a quiet confirmation in your soul. The time has come. You do not need to rush, you need to be faithful. You do not need to prove anything, you need to be present. And as you continue walking in this rhythm, you will see that what I give you is not merely work to be done, but a person you are becoming, one who can carry light into spaces that need guidance, through a steadiness forged over a long journey. My beloved child, when entrustment has begun, you will soon realize that true authority does not appear instantly, like a title bestowed, but is formed gradually through quiet faithfulness. This is the season when you are no longer measured by what you promise to do, but by what you continue to do when no one is watching, when there is no praise, and when outcomes are still unclear. I do not build authority through standout moments, but through a sequence of ordinary days in which you choose what is right even when it brings no immediate advantage. In that unassuming consistency, the foundation of authority is laid firm, deep, and difficult to shake. You may feel that this season lacks the affirmation you thought would accompany new responsibility. You are more ready, more clear. Yet, external feedback seems slow. My child, do not hastily conclude that you are on the wrong path. I often hide authority within the ordinary so it is not stolen by ego or distorted by haste. Just as David learned faithfulness while tending sheep before shepherding a nation, you are invited to do well what is presently in your hands, not because it is large, but because I entrusted it to you. What you consider small today is precisely where I am training your trustworthiness for tomorrow. True authority does not coerce, it attracts through consistency. You will notice that as you live aligned with what I have placed within you, others begin to seek you out, not because you demand it, but because they sense safety and clarity. I do not give you authority to dominate, but to serve, not to command, but to guide. Just as Jesus washed the disciples' feet before commissioning them, I form authority within you through deliberate humility when you choose to lower yourself to lift others up without losing your identity. Quiet authority is also tested through delay. There will be times when you wonder why what I entrusted has not yet expanded, why your influence has not increased, why the doors you expected remain closed. I do not delay because I lack power. I delay to protect you from carrying weight before your roots are deep enough. Tall trees require deep roots. Wide influence requires a solid foundation. In days that seem stagnant, I am strengthening your roots, teaching patience, perseverance, and freedom from measuring your worth by speed. When you learn to remain in the process, you will not be swept away when expansion finally comes. This season also exposes lingering motives. You will be placed in situations where shortcuts are available faster, easier, but not right. I do not tempt you. I allow you to face choices so you can see what you truly value. Authority is formed when you choose what is right even when no one knows, and when you forego short-term gain to protect long-term integrity. Just as Joseph kept his heart pure in a hidden house, you are being trained to live truthfully before the light shines. What is preserved in secrecy will be revealed at the proper time. True authority also requires that you take responsibility for your influence, not only for what you say, but for what you awaken in others. Your words now carry greater weight. Your silence also speaks. I am teaching you to speak less, but more precisely, to respond more slowly, but more deeply. When you recognize that others look to you for direction, you will no longer use words to release personal emotion, but to build and to guide. This is not suppression, it is maturity, knowing what to hold back and what to release. Along this path, you will also learn to embrace limits. Authority does not make you all capable, it makes you more aware of your boundaries. I do not call you to do everything. I call you to do your portion fully. When you honor limits, you protect authority from being eroded by exhaustion and dispersion. I do not give authority so you burn yourself out. I give it so you become a sustainable source of life. Learning to say no at the right time is also part of mature authority. There will be days when you feel slow, even left behind. Remember, authority does not race. It moves at the pace of trust. When you are faithful in the unseen, I am building within you a steadiness that no upheaval can easily overturn. And when the time comes for authority to be visible, it will not need promotion. It will be recognized. Others will sense that you speak not merely from knowledge, but from experience, not from theory, but from faithfulness refined by fire. Know this season is not a meaningless pause between two vibrant chapters. It is a furnace. Here, I do not create those who impress, I create those who are trustworthy. As you continue walking in quiet faithfulness, authority will grow with you naturally, steadily, and in alignment with what I will entrust in the next part of the journey. And when the door opens, you will step through not with fragile excitement, but with the steadiness of one who has been carefully prepared in days unseen by others, but always seen by me. My beloved child, this is the time for you to learn how to carry what is given without allowing it to become a weight that crushes your soul. For there are those who receive new responsibility and lose their softness, those who step into new roles and trade peace for performance, those whose influence expands, yet who are drained because they try to hold everything by their own strength. I am not calling you to that path. I do not place anything upon your life to turn you into a cracked vessel. I arrange things so you may become a strong vessel, capacious, ordered, and deep, so that what I pour into you is not lost to inner disorder. You will come to realize that a burden does not always come from the amount of work, but from the way it is carried. Two people can do the same task, face the same pressure, yet one remains at peace while the other becomes tense to the point of exhaustion. The difference is not in the external circumstances, it lies in the inner foundation and in where they place their support. I want you to learn this. You were not created to live in a state of constant strain. You were created to live in connection. When you carry things by your own strength, responsibility will always feel heavier than your capacity, but when you carry them in union with me, that very responsibility becomes grace, not because it grows lighter in a worldly sense, but because it is distributed rightly, carried in the right rhythm, and held in proper order. There will be days when it feels as though many things are pulling at you all at once, requests for help, unexpected needs, decisions that cannot be postponed, situations that require you to step forward. This is where you can easily fall into a subtle error, believing that maturity means holding everything. But true maturity is knowing what you are meant to hold, and allowing other things to return to their proper place, not because you are indifferent, but because you understand limits, rhythm, and the truth that everything is not the definition of faithfulness. I do not measure your faithfulness by how much you carry. I look at the clarity of your choices and your consistency with what I have spoken. When you learn to ask the right question, does this belong to my portion? You will be protected from exhaustion and from cycles that drain your soul. This season also touches something deeper, the ego that hides beneath responsibility. There are those who do much not out of love, but out of fear of being disregarded, those who never refuse because they believe that if they stop, they will lose their value, those who constantly try to rescue everything because they cannot bear the feeling of helplessness. I do not say these things to burden you, but to free you. For when responsibility becomes the place where you seek your worth, it turns into chains. You begin to work not from life, but from a hunger for recognition. And when recognition never comes in sufficient measure, you become angry, disappointed, or withdrawn. I want to lead you into a deeper place. You act because you are sent, but you do not depend on human response to remain steady. I loved you before you did anything. I called you not because you are useful, but because you belong to me. When you anchor yourself in that love, responsibility is no longer a place to prove yourself, but a place to serve in freedom. My child, carrying what is entrusted to you rightly also requires learning a difficult art, resting without guilt. I know you are accustomed to constant vigilance, to always doing, trying, fixing, but there is a sacred truth you must engrave in your heart. Rest is not the opposite of mission. Rest is part of the mission. When you know how to stop at the right time, you are declaring that you are not the source I am. When you step back to recover, you are protecting what I am building. I am not inviting you into laziness. I am inviting you into the right rhythm. You do not need to burn until you turn to ashes to prove your devotion. True devotion does not self-immolate. It endures. It is like a lamp tended with the right amount of oil, burning long, burning steadily, not flaring up only to be extinguished. As you begin to walk more steadily, others will project their expectations onto you. They will assume you are always strong, always available, always with answers. They will come to you as a place of support. My child, you are called to uphold others, but you are not called to replace me in their lives. If you accept all of those expectations, you will slowly become a victim of your role. I want you to keep a holy boundary. You may love, you may help, you may walk alongside, but you do not carry the responsibility of living life on behalf of others. You do not save the world. You are simply faithful to the portion I have entrusted to you. When you keep that boundary, you protect compassion from turning into weariness, service from becoming resentment, and authority from collapsing into pride or ruin. There will be moments when I allow you to feel powerless in the face of certain situations. You will pray. You will try. You will do what is right. Yet some things will not change immediately. Do not fear that feeling. Powerlessness, when placed correctly, is a blessing. It reminds you that you are not the one who controls outcomes. It keeps you from the illusion that if you are good enough, everything will bend to your will. And it is precisely in those moments that your authority is refined. You learn to do your part and entrust the rest to me. When you stop straining to produce results, you create space for grace to work in a deeper, longer-lasting, and properly timed way. To carry what is entrusted rightly also means learning to keep a soft heart even when you must be decisive. There will be seasons when you need to speak plainly, establish discipline, and make difficult decisions. But if you harden inwardly, you will slowly lose what makes you distinct strength that is gentle. I am not calling you to become cold in order to be respected. Nor am I calling you to become weak in order to be loved. I am calling you to become both firm and warm, firm in principle, warm in spirit. When you hold this balance, you will lead without breaking others, correct without crushing hope, and stand without trampling anyone. By the end of this season, you will discover a secret. What I have entrusted to you is not merely a set of tasks, it is the shaping of a new kind of person. You are not only doing more, you are becoming different. You begin to walk with greater calm and clarity, with deeper alertness, and with a confidence that does not need display. You will understand that true authority does not shout to be heard. Its presence is enough. You will understand that responsibility is not a chain. It is a bridge into the measure of influence aligned with your design. You will understand that burdens have no right to crush you. They only have permission to teach you how to rely on me more deeply. So carry what I give you as one who carries fire through the night, not scattering it to cause a wildfire, not hiding it until it goes out, but holding it rightly so that the light travels far. Walk forward without haste. Serve without burning yourself up. Be decisive without losing compassion. And as you do, you will find that what once made you tremble, responsibility, pressure, expectation becomes the very path by which you enter into a steady maturity. For when you carry things rightly, what I place upon you is no longer the burden of humanity, but grace, a quiet strength that carries you through, so that you not only stand firm, but help others find a firm place to stand with you. My child, after long seasons of preparation, entrustment, and learning how to carry what has been given, you will step into a phase that is easily misunderstood, the season of open doors. Many assume that when doors open, everything becomes clear, effortless, and free of tension. But, my child, true doors rarely open amid noise. They often open while you are living faithfully in the present, without display, without striving, and sometimes without even realizing that you have drawn very near to the threshold of a new chapter. I do not open doors to overwhelm, I open them to invite, and every invitation carries a choice whether to step through or remain where you are. The first signs are not grand promises, but subtle shifts, a meeting that seems accidental, an offer not yet fully formed, a quiet stirring that no longer allows you to remain comfortable in the old place. At the same time, familiar paths begin to close, not with a loud slam, but with a gradual loss of life. What once nourished you now feels dry. Connections that once flowed easily no longer share the same rhythm. Choices that were once simple now feel heavy. My child, do not mistake this closing for failure. It is not loss, it is released. I am not taking away what you need. I am loosening your grip on what has completed its purpose. When the door opens, you will face a paradox. What is new carries life, but it also carries uncertainty. You will not be given a full map. I rarely reveal the entire road, for if you could see it all, you would lean on your own sight rather than on your relationship with me. I invite you to walk by step, knowing each step illuminated just enough to move forward, but not enough to control. As Abraham left his homeland without knowing where he was going, you are called to cross the threshold with mature trust, not impulsive confidence. In this season, discernment becomes essential. Not every open door comes from me. Not every bright opportunity fits your timing or your identity. I do not measure your obedience by how many doors you walk through, but by the precision of your choices. Some doors open to test motives, some invitations come to probe boundaries, and some opportunities resemble blessings but would pull you out of the rhythm I am keeping for you. Therefore, I invite you to pause, to listen, and to ask the right questions. Does this align with the order I have re-established within you? Does it honor the rhythm of life I have taught you to keep? Does it draw you closer to me, or scatter you from what is essential? Open doors are also accompanied by shifts in relationships. You will see that some people cannot and need not step through with you, not because they are wrong, but because they belong to a different rhythm. I know this touches deep emotions, for bonds are formed with those who walked beside you through difficult seasons. But, my child, loyalty to the past must not become disloyalty to the present. I am not calling you to sever ties in bitterness. I am inviting you to separate in peace. Some goodbyes require no drama. They require only truth. And that truth, when fully lived, will protect both you and them. As you draw closer to the new door, old fears may resurface, not because you are weak, but because you are standing before something that matters. You may fear making mistakes, losing stability, or being insufficient. Do not rush to condemn yourself for these feelings. I do not demand that you be fearless. I invite you not to let fear steer you. Courage is not the absence of trembling. Courage is moving forward while the heart still beats fast. As Joshua stood before the Jordan and the waters parted only when his feet touched the river, you will see the way open as you obey, not beforehand. Some doors will open along with new responsibility and new scrutiny from others. You will be seen, expected of, and at times misunderstood. Remember this: do not let human gaze determine your direction. When you step through to please people, you will soon be trapped. When you step through in obedience, you will be upheld. I do not promise that everyone will understand you. I promise that I will walk with you. And that companionship is enough to keep you standing when opinions shift. The season of open doors also requires releasing old versions of yourself. Not only jobs, relationships, or locations, but the way you once understood who you were. You cannot enter the new with an old identity without being torn within. I have re-established order inside you so that you may put on what fits the new season. Do not try to carry everything with you. Carry what is essential: faith tested by fire, discernment that has been trained, and humility that has been refined. These will help you recognize which door to enter and which path to leave behind. Remember that an open door is not the destination. It is a transition. I open doors so you may enter spaces where your influence is rightly placed, where your responsibility bears fruit, and where your presence brings life. Do not rush through. Step across with awareness. Do not look back with regret. Give thanks for what has been completed. And as you stand at the threshold, one foot still in the old, one about to step into the new, take a deep breath and remember that I am the God of beginnings at the right time. I do not open a door and leave you to figure it out alone. I stand right there, inviting you to step through, so that the next chapter does not merely begin, but is fully lived according to the design I wrote long ago for your life. My beloved child, when doors have opened and old paths have closed, another movement unfolds alongside, far more subtle. Yet just as real relationships are being reordered, this is not random disruption, nor a series of meaningless coincidences. I am adjusting the rhythm of meetings, distances, and roles between you and others so that you may enter the new season without being pulled away from your center. You will notice some connections grow quiet, no longer flowing as naturally as before. At the same time, new encounters appear at just the right moment, in the right context, meeting the right need as if they had been waiting for you. My child, do not rush to label things as arrival or departure. based on fleeting emotion. Look deeper. I am rearranging the network of influence around you so that what I have planted may have space to bear fruit. This reordering first touches your closest relationships. You may realize that the harmony which once kept everything smooth now needs to be replaced with honesty. Conversations become more direct. Differences once avoided must now be named. Do not fear this. When inner order has been restored, truth is no longer a threat, it is a safeguard. I am not pulling you into conflict to exhaust you. I am leading you through necessary dialogues to clarify boundaries, adjust expectations, and reset the foundation of respect. Some relationships will deepen because they dare to speak truth. Others will step back because they cannot live outside ambiguity. Both outcomes are rightful results of light. You need to learn to discern roles. Not everyone is called to walk with you through every depth. Some belong to memory and foundation, some to the present and the work at hand. Some are appointed for the future and for vision. When you try to compress every role into one person, you create unnecessary pressure and distort the relationship. I am teaching you to honor the diverse design of relationships, each with its function, its timing, its boundary. Wisdom is not found in keeping everyone close, but in placing the right people in the right places so that life may flow. There will be encounters marked by right timing, people you have never known, yet upon meeting feel as though an invisible thread has been joined. Brief conversations that open long directions, collaborations that begin simply yet carry great potential, counsel that arrives neither too early nor too late. My child, do not idealize these meetings, and do not diminish them. Receive them with attentiveness. I often begin important things with the humility of small beginnings. Just as Ruth met Boaz in the ordinary rhythm of fieldwork, you will discover that what I arrange is often hidden within everyday life, waiting for you to enter, with eyes trained to recognize value. At the same time, you will need to learn how to release relationships that are no longer in rhythm without carrying bitterness. I am not calling you to cut people off with harshness. I am inviting you to leave in peace. Some have completed their portion in your life, and holding them in place out of a sense of debt only slows both of you down. Be grateful, bless them, and keep moving. Maturity is not measured by how many relationships you keep, but by the quality of presence you bring into the relationships that remain. When you release in the right way, I open the necessary space for the new to arrive without collision. This season will also test you in how you listen. You will meet those who speak much, and those who speak little, those who are strong, and those who are fragile. I am teaching you to listen not only with your ears, but with discernment. Not every piece of advice is for you. Not every expectation needs to be met. Mature listening is listening in order to understand what belongs to you and what must be returned to others. Together with me, when you listen rightly, you are not pulled into responsibilities that were never assigned, and you also do not miss the guidance that truly matters. This is a key skill for going far without burning out. In new relationships, you will be invited to be fully present without losing yourself. Do not rush to reveal everything. Do not hurry to prove your worth. Let time do its work. I place you in new connections not so you can perform a perfect role, but so you can live truthfully from an identity that has been refined. Authenticity draws the right people and exposes mismatched bonds. When you are not trying to impress, you create room for trust to take root, trust that is more durable than any quick promise. This reordering also touches the way you handle conflict. Conflict is not a sign of failure, it is a test of the new order. I am not seeking false harmony, I am seeking peace, grounded in truth. When conflict comes, do not avoid it, and do not escalate it. Step in with clarity, gentleness, and firm boundaries. You do not need to win an argument. You need to protect relationships from misunderstanding and protect identity from erosion. When you handle conflict with inner order, you teach others how to honor boundaries and you open the possibility of true healing. There may be moments of temporary loneliness while relationships are being rearranged. Do not panic. This quiet space is not abandonment. It is a transitional corridor. I use the corridor so you do not carry the past into the future by inertia. In that quiet, I strengthen the communion between you and me, so that when new relationships enter, they do not take the central place that belongs to me. Temporary loneliness, when placed rightly, becomes steadiness, a foundation for healthier connections. Remember, every meeting carries responsibility. Not the responsibility of holding on at all costs, but the responsibility of living your role rightly. I do not arrange encounters so you carry another's life. I arrange them so you contribute in proper measure to a shared story. When you honor your limits and theirs, relationships will not become burdens, but sources of life. And as you walk in that order, you will realize something simple, yet profound. What I am doing is not only changing who is beside you, but changing how you are beside others with awareness, freedom, and love unmingled with fear. Keep moving forward with eyes wide open and a heart set in order. Right-timed encounters will keep coming. Relationships that no longer fit will keep stepping back. Do not cling, and do not rush. Let me conduct the rhythm of meeting and parting. When you trust that rhythm, you will see that no relationship is wasted, no goodbye is meaningless, and no meeting is accidental. All of it is converging to lead you deeper into the new chapter where your presence will bring order, life, and hope to those I place along your path. My beloved child, there will come a time when you realize that opportunities rarely enter your life in the shape you once imagined. You waited for them in a familiar form, a clear invitation, a straight road, an undeniable sign, a kind of ease that would require no inner wrestling. But my ways often choose another route, not to make things hard for you, but to heal, a very human habit, only recognizing blessings when it looks like what you expected. Some doors I open do not resemble doors at all. They look like a small turn, an unexpected assignment, a conversation that seems ordinary, or even a change that unsettles your balance. And if you search only for grand signals, you will overlook what I am placing right in front of you, a small seed that the future will call a turning point. In this season, you will find that opportunity can come as an unfinished offer. It will not arrive with ideal conditions. It will not come with absolute certainty. And at times it will confront you with the question, am I enough, my child? I do not always give you a perfect plan. I give you a fitting step. Just as a potter does not fill a vessel while the clay is still soft, I do not place everything into your hands before you are ready to hold it. I bring you into opportunity through layered growth, so that each layer of maturity within you becomes the capacity for the next. Therefore, what you call unclear is sometimes protection. It keeps you from running ahead of grace, from stepping in while your heart is still chaotic, and from choosing out of excitement instead of obedience. Opportunity may also come disguised as a problem to solve. I know you often sort life into two compartments, blessing and trial. But in my hands, blessing is often wrapped in trial, and trial can be the protective shell around blessing. Do you remember Joseph? The door that led him into a great position did not open with a red carpet. It opened through years of being misunderstood, pushed down, and forced to learn stewardship in the dark. If you look with natural eyes, you will see only adversity. But if you look with spiritual eyes, you will see me deepening capacity, shaping character, and placing him in the right environment so that when the time comes, he would not only have a position, he would have the strength to sustain it. In the same way, you may be given a task that seems like trouble, yet that very task will lead you to the right people, teach you the right skills, and bring you to the right door. At times, opportunity will arrive as a shift in your rhythm of life, a new schedule, a new environment, a context that demands adaptation. You will feel like one stepping out of a familiar room into an unfamiliar corridor. You cannot yet see the destination. You only know you are leaving the old behind. In that corridor, you can easily become unsettled, because people prefer being in a room to walking through a corridor. But, my child, the corridor is essential to the design. It prevents you from carrying the past intact into the future. It lightens you. It removes what you cannot bring with you. It forces you to hear me more clearly, because the noise of old habits is fading. If you accept the corridor, you will not fear empty spaces. You will recognize them as room for me to place new things cleanly and rightly. In this season, I am teaching you a lesson about timing. Opportunity is not only about what, but also when. What is right but too early causes collapse. What is right but too late becomes regret. That is why I train you in alertness, knowing when to wait, and knowing when to move. There will be moments when you feel a strong urge. Yet I tell you to pause so your heart can settle. Your motives can be refined, and your vision can sharpen. And there will be moments when you want to delay. Yet I urge you forward because a window is open. The current is favorable, and the arrangement is in rhythm. I do not lead you by haste. I lead you by precision. When you learn to honor timing, you will witness something beautiful. Fewer steps, yet farther progress. Fewer words, yet deeper impact. Less strain and forcing, yet steadier fruit. Opportunity will also test you at a very real point, the cost. Not cost in the sense of buying and selling, but the cost of leaving what is familiar in order to enter what is right. You may have to lay down certain comforts, certain habits, certain easy ways you once relied on to feel secure. And the hardest part is not losing something external, but releasing something internal: fear of judgment, fear of failure, a fear of starting again, fear of no longer maintaining the image that I'm fine. My child, I am not ashamed of your weakness. I simply do not want you to let weakness hold the reins. When opportunity comes, what I need is not your certainty about everything, but your willingness to walk with me. For I do not promise that you will face no hardship. I promise you will not be alone. And my presence is worth more than the most convenient circumstance. In this season of unexpected opportunity, you will encounter conflicting voices. Some will encourage you. Some will doubt you. Some will say you are dreaming. Some will tell you to be realistic. And some, speaking from their own fear, will urge you to turn back. I am not forbidding you from listening to others, but I am inviting you to place their words in the right position. Human opinions are temporary. My leading is your anchor. You do not need to argue to prove anything. You only need to stand firm so you can step rightly. People may not understand because they have not seen what I have been doing in you throughout the previous seasons. They see only the present. I see the entire story. So when you must choose, choose from the deep peace within you, not the peace of comfort, but the peace of alignment. Right opportunities often come with the responsibility to serve. I do not open doors merely to lift you up. I open doors so you may become a channel that carries life. When you enter an opportunity with a pure motive, you will see that it does not only benefit you, it also releases impact for those I place around you. You will no longer view achievement as a ladder to stand higher, but as a lamp to light the way for others. And it is in the way you serve that I protect you from pride, from self-satisfaction, from turning blessing into an idol. The right opportunity will not pull you away from me. It will draw you nearer, because you will realize that without me you cannot keep the rhythm. You cannot keep your heart, and you cannot keep humility. When opportunity arrives in a form you did not expect, the most important thing is that you learn to recognize my hand. That hand may be hidden in a change that confuses you, in an unexpected meeting that opens a new direction, in the closing of an old path so you do not wander, in a responsibility that comes suddenly so you mature more quickly, in an invitation that pushes you into deeper prayer. If you recognize my hand, you will not be obsessed with right or wrong by worldly standards. You will care about being in rhythm with my leading. And, as you walk in that rhythm, you will look back and understand what seemed disconnected had been joined long ago. What seemed accidental was actually a link in the chain. What felt like upheaval was, in truth, the clearing of the way. Do not seek only what is big, honor what is small. Do not wait only for what is dazzling, recognize what is quiet. Do not look only at the appearance, look at the substance. If it draws you nearer to me, if it strengthens the order I have re-established, if it nourishes life instead of triggering chaos, if it opens capacity for service rather than feeding the ego, then it may be the door I am opening. And when you step through, you will not be stepping into vague luck. You will be stepping into a portion of a design already written, where everything begins to fit, like the final gears finding their place and beginning to move. My beloved child, when you have walked through doors that did not look like doors, when relationships have been rearranged and opportunity begins to surface, you will feel something clearly. The rhythm of life accelerates. What once unfolded slowly now gathers momentum. Decisions come closer together. Demands become more specific, with less margin in between. This is a season many mistakenly interpret as being swept away. But my child, if you look with eyes that have been trained, you will recognize that I do not create chaos. I accelerate because the foundation is ready. There is no acceleration in me that is not matched by preparation. And in this faster rhythm, your faith enters a new zone of pressure, not to be broken, but to be proven. This new pressure does not come only from the amount of work or the number of responsibilities. It comes from the clarity of your calling. When everything is vague, you can hesitate. When direction is clear, delay becomes disobedience. I know that can feel heavy, because clarity carries responsibility, and responsibility demands decisive choices. But, my child, I did not bring you into clarity to bind you. I brought you into it to free you from indecision. Many souls are weary not because they do too much, but because they do not know why they are doing it. When purpose is revealed, endurance is released. And in that endurance, you learn to move quickly without moving hastily. In this season of acceleration, I also allow tests of faith to appear more distinctly. Not entirely new tests, but old ones placed into a new context. With greater intensity, you may notice weaknesses that were once hidden now showing more clearly, fears that once lay dormant now knocking louder, questions you thought were resolved returning in another form. Do not panic. This is not evidence that you are regressing. it is proof that you are going deeper. When pressure increases, what is within will be revealed, and I allow that revealing not to shame you, but to give you a fresh choice, choosing to rely on me more deeply rather than returning to old defenses. In this season, faith is no longer measured by intense feelings or spiritual highs. It is measured by faithfulness in a fast rhythm, when you still keep inner order in a crowded schedule, when you still hear my voice among many voices, when you still choose what is right, even if it slows you down compared to others' expectations. This is mature faith. It does not need to prove itself with grand words, but is confirmed by the way you steward time, energy, and attention. When you place priorities rightly, you are declaring that I remain the center, even while everything around you is moving swiftly. Within this faster pace, you will also face the temptation of self-reliance. When you see yourself accomplishing more, when others begin to trust you, when results come more quickly, you can easily slip into carrying everything by skill and experience. I do not deny what you have learned, I gave it. But, my child, do not let gifts replace communion. Skill may help you move faster, but only communion will keep you moving rightly. If you begin making decisions without pausing to listen, if you begin acting without anchoring yourself in my presence, you will soon feel empty, even while busy. I do not want you to succeed and lose the life within. There will be days when your faith feels stretched, not because you doubt me, but because circumstances require you to believe before you see. This is when you learn to stand on the word that has been spoken, not on the outcome that is unfolding. Just as Peter had to step out of the boat before the water became firm beneath him, you are being invited into concrete obedience without waiting for perfect conditions. I do not condemn you if you tremble. I simply do not want you to climb back into the boat out of fear. Remember, the water supports only when you place your foot down. And when you do, you will discover that what holds you is not the certainty of circumstances, but my faithfulness. In this season, I also adjust your rhythm of rest. As speed increases, the need for rest in the right way becomes even more essential. I am not calling you to run endlessly. I am calling you to run in rhythm. Rest is not a reward after everything is finished. It is a condition that allows you to keep working without breaking. Learn to stop with intention. Stop to listen. Stop to realign. Stop to remind yourself that outcomes do not define your worth. When you rest in me, you resist a common lie that you only have value when you are producing results. I love you before any result, and that love is the foundation for every sustainable pace. Acceleration will also clarify the boundaries of obedience. You will no longer be able to please everyone. Choices that are in rhythm with me may disappoint others, unsettle them, or cause misunderstanding. Do not let that pull you off course. I do not lead you by the crowd's agreement. I lead you by deep inner peace. When you choose obedience over being liked, you protect the mission from mixture. And when you protect the mission, I protect you not from every collision, but from being crushed by them. Know this, the accelerated rhythm does not last forever in the same way. It comes in cycles. I increase the pace so you may pass through a critical stretch, so that what has been prepared can be put into motion, so that the light is not only stored but released. If you preserve inner order in a fast rhythm, you will not fear the seasons that follow, whether they bring acceleration or slowing, because you know you are walking with me. And when you look back on this period, you will realize that it was pressure itself that made your faith steadier, more grounded, and more capable of carrying others. So do not panic when your schedule becomes dense. Ask what is essential. Do not fear pressure. See it as an invitation to lean more deeply into me. Do not try to slow down by withdrawing. Slow down by anchoring yourself. When you do this, you will discover that a fast pace does not sweep you away. It carries you to the right place at the right time. So that what I have written for your life is not only opened, but lived out fully in faithfulness. My child, when the rhythm of life has accelerated and new pressure has clearly surfaced, you will enter a more subtle and more demanding stage. Faith is no longer upheld by feeling, but must stand firm through deep faithfulness. There were seasons when you sensed my presence vividly, your heart felt warm. Decisions came easily, and each step was met with immediate confirmation. But, my child, in this accelerated season, I allow those feelings to recede not because I am distant, but because I am leading you into mature depth. Faith cannot live forever on emotion. If it does, it will collapse the moment. Emotions shift. I am teaching you to stand steady even when your heart does not stir, even when the atmosphere is not favorable, even when everything requires you to keep moving without immediate encouragement. You may be surprised to find that you are still doing what is right, still obeying, still remaining faithful, yet no longer feeling carried in the same way as before. Do not assume you have lost something. On the contrary, you are being entrusted with something greater. When a child first learns to walk, it needs a firm hand to hold. But as it grows, that hand withdraws so the child can learn balance. I am still there, but I no longer hold you in the old way, because I know you have a foundation. And in this emotional space, your faithfulness is refined. It no longer depends on inspiration, but is rooted in conscious choice. You will see a clear difference between impulsive belief and enduring faith. Impulsive belief acts strongly when circumstances are favorable. Enduring faith continues to act when favorable conditions have passed. I do not erase the high moments you once experienced. I put them in their rightful place. They were a beginning, not a foundation. Your foundation now is quiet faithfulness. You continue to pray when results are not immediate. You choose truth when falsehood seems easier. You maintain a healthy rhythm when your schedule pulls you toward extremes. These things do not impress the crowd, but they impress heaven, because they reveal that you no longer live by reaction, but by commitment. At times you may ask yourself, if I don't feel strong, am I becoming weak, my child? Hear me clearly. Weakness does not mean loss of faith. Some forms of weakness come from carrying greater weight, like a person lifting heavier weights in training. Trembling muscles do not signal weakness, they signal challenge on the way to strength. I allow you to feel your limits so you do not fall into the illusion of self-sufficiency. Mature faith does not say, I can do this, but says, I will continue because you have spoken. And it is that commitment that keeps you standing when everything else shakes. I will touch your deepest motives. When emotion is no longer the reward, you will see more clearly why you are doing what you do. If you act only to be recognized, you will quickly grow weary. If you act only to feel valuable, you will soon be exhausted. But if you act because you are called, because you know where you belong, you will continue even when no one sees. I do not expose motives to condemn you. I expose them to free you from living dependent on external response. When motives are refined, your actions become lighter, clearer, and less easily pulled off course. This stage also tests how you handle fatigue. Fatigue is not always a signal to stop. Sometimes it is a signal to adjust how you are carrying the load. I do not want you to force yourself forward by sheer willpower. I want you to learn to lean more deeply into me as your energy decreases. When you are tired yet faithful, you learn to do less but more rightly, to speak less but more precisely, and to rest not as escape, but as realignment. Rest during acceleration is not retreat, it is the strategy of the wise. So direction is not lost. In this season, you will also realize that faithfulness is not always rewarded immediately. There are seeds you have sown whose shoots you have not yet seen. Do not be discouraged. I do not forget what is sown in obedience. There are seasons when I hold the harvest in my hand to protect you from reaping before you are ready. If you harvest too early, you will not have the capacity to sustain it. So I invite you to trust the invisible process where I am working not on the surface, but within the deep structure of your life. When the time comes, the fruit will appear not as a surprise, but as something inevitable. Faithfulness in this season also requires learning to face my silence without speculation. Silence is not rejection. Often, it is space for you to practice what I have already spoken. I do not need to repeat instruction when it has been understood. I observe how you live, what has been said, how you apply it. Adjust it, and persevere in it. When you hear nothing new, do not panic. Return to what has already been confirmed and continue faithfully. Maturity is shown most clearly when you do not need new direction for every step, but know how to walk rightly with what has already been entrusted. Know this: faithfulness in the season of acceleration is the anchor. It keeps you from being swept away by success, from being crushed by failure, and from losing direction amid noise. When emotions rise, faithfulness keeps you humble. When emotions fall, faithfulness keeps you standing. It is quiet, unassuming, but enduring, and because of that, it carries lasting power. I am not looking for souls who shine only in moments. I am looking for souls who shine across time. So if you are in a season where faith is no longer supported by feeling, do not be afraid. You have not lost anything. You are being strengthened. Continue doing what is right when no one applauds. Continue walking when you cannot see the whole road. Continue trusting when your heart has not yet caught up. I am very near not to make everything easier, but to make you steadier. And when you pass through this stage, you will look back and understand that it was quiet faithfulness that kept you standing in acceleration, and that prepared you for the clearer unveiling that waits ahead. My beloved child, there will come a time, my child, when what you have sown in silence begins to appear as fruit. Not everything will burst forth at once. Not every matter will be completed in a single day, but enough for you to recognize that the process was not in vain, that faithfulness was not forgotten, and that the accelerated rhythm you passed through was not a meaningless whirl. The fruit appears like a gentle confirmation you have been walking in the right direction. Yet this is also the moment when a new, more subtle test begins to take shape, the test of stability amid increase. For, my child, not everyone falls in times of lack. Many lose their way when things finally begin to work. When the first results appear, you may feel a sense of relief mixed with joy. The pressure of not knowing whether this is right eases. Doubting voices soften. Your heart gains confidence. I do not deny that joy. I will allow you to enjoy it. But I also invite you to slow down inwardly, so that joy does not slip into complacency, and affirmation does not replace dependence. Fruit is not proof that you can continue on your own without me. Fruit is a reminder that when you remain in me, life flows naturally. If you forget the source, the fruit will soon wither. If you keep the source, The fruit will continue to multiply in its season. In this stage, you will learn how to live with results. Before, you lived by faith amid lack. Now you live by faith amid growth. These require different inner skills. Lack trains endurance. Growth trains humility. When things begin to go well, you will be tempted to measure your worth by productivity, impact, numbers, or feedback. I warn you not to frighten you, but to keep you awake. Your value does not increase with results, nor does it diminish when results slow. You are still my child before you sow, while you wait, and after you reap. When you hold fast to this truth, results will not control your emotions or your decisions. Fruit will also draw the attention of others. Some will encourage you. Some will compare. Some will raise their expectations. And some will want to lean on you as a substitute source. My child, be careful. I do not lift you up to make you the final support for anyone. I lift you up so you may point to me. If you begin to absorb those expectations without returning them to their rightful place, you will soon feel pressure that does not belong to you. Remember, you are called to serve within limits, not to save in illusion. When you keep boundaries, you protect the life that is growing both in you and in others. Before, instability drove you to prayer. Now, stability may tempt you to become careless. I am not saying stability is bad. I am saying stability must not replace vigilance. When everything runs smoothly, it is easy to neglect small things, rhythms of rest, deep listening, checking motives, and subtle adjustment. Yet it is precisely these small things that keep growth from turning into misalignment. Just as a gardener must prune while a tree is healthy, you too must prune schedules, priorities, and relationships so that life is distributed rightly. This stage requires you to learn how to guard your inner rhythm. As results increase, invitations increase, opportunities increase. The greatest danger is trading the rhythm I taught you for the rhythm of expectation. I do not call you to be slow, I call you to be in rhythm. Some invitations are good but arrive at the wrong time. Some projects are attractive but do not belong to your portion. Some paths open but would scatter you from what is essential. Wisdom in a season of fruitfulness is not found in saying yes more often, but in saying no more clearly. Every time you say no in the right place, you are saying yes to what I am building. Early fruit is also the moment when I test the depth of your joy. Do you rejoice because of the results or because of the relationship? If results are slow, does joy disappear? If feedback lessens, does motivation fade? I do not ask to discourage you, but to anchor your joy where it cannot be shaken. Enduring joy does not come from success, but from union. When your joy is anchored in me, you can walk calmly, whether the next season brings increase or decrease. And it is that calmness that makes you a source of comfort for others in their seasons. In this season, I show you the value of disciplined gratitude, not emotional gratitude when things go well, but intentional gratitude, looking back, naming, and offering to me each stage of the journey. Gratitude reminds you that you did not arrive here by yourself. It keeps you from subtle pride and from rewriting history to favor the ego. When you give thanks, you tell the story rightly, the story of a soul that has been led, shaped, and sustained. And when you tell the story rightly, you preserve truth for the paths ahead. Understand, this early fruit is not the peak. It is the sign of a healthy cycle. There will be further seasons of pruning, seasons of new sowing, seasons of waiting, but you no longer fear them as before. For you have learned how to pass through acceleration without losing order, through results without losing humility, and through stability without losing alertness. Your maturity now does not lie in avoiding every trial, but in keeping your identity in every rhythm. So when fruit begins to appear, smile but do not let go of my hand. Rejoice but do not let joy take the lead. Move forward but do not forget the rhythm that brought you here. If you hold to these things, you will not only see temporary results, but will enter a life of fruitfulness in season, where your life becomes a sustained source of life for many, across many stages, exactly according to the design I wrote from the beginning, my child. There will come a moment when you no longer stand in the midst of rushing decisions, no longer at the center of acceleration or pressure, but are placed in a higher position, the position of looking back, not looking back with regret, nor with self-satisfied pride, but with a gaze refined by time, by experience, and by my faithful companionship. From that place, you begin to understand that the journey was never fragmented. What seemed like breaks were necessary turns. Dark seasons were not mistakes, but soil where light could take deeper root. And the steps that once made you tremble were the very steps that lifted you to a height from which you could see the larger picture. What I have done in your life has never been only about bringing you to a particular outcome, but about shaping a person capable of carrying that outcome. If I cared only about the destination, I could have shortened the road, but I care about your soul, its depth, its freedom, its capacity to love, to discern, and to stand firm through many seasons. That is why I allowed delays to teach you patience, shaking to teach you discernment, silence to teach you listening, and acceleration to teach you reliance. None of these lessons replaces another. They are layered upon one another, forming the solid foundation on which you stand today. My beloved child, from the height of purpose, you will understand why some doors had to close before others could open. If the old paths had remained accessible, you would not have had the courage to step into what was new. If former relationships had not been rearranged, you would have carried rhythms that no longer fit. If opportunities had arrived earlier, you would have entered them before your inner life was sufficiently ordered. I did not take things away to leave you lacking. I loosened them to set you free. And true freedom is not having every option, but being placed rightly so that choosing no longer tears you apart. As this stage comes to completion, you will realize that your faith has changed its form. It is no longer a flame that flares with emotion, nor a strained effort to believe in the dark. Your faith now resembles a steady current, quiet yet enduring, flowing through ordinary days as well as extraordinary ones. You do not need to prove it, you live it. And the way you live, calmer, more discerning, more compassionate, becomes a testimony stronger than any words. I have not only taught you to believe, I have taught you to remain. You may still be busy, still carrying responsibility, still leading, but you are no longer driven by fear of falling behind, fear of not being enough, fear of being overlooked. You act because you are sent, not because you must prove yourself. You rest because you know your source, not because you are exhausted. This rest does not make you passive, it makes you precise. When you act from rest, each step carries the right weight, neither excessive nor lacking. From that height, you will also see others with different eyes. You will no longer rush to judge those who are in stages you have already passed. You understand their slowness, because you remember seasons when you were slow. You understand their urgency, because you once stood there yourself. And so your heart opens not with pity, but with deep empathy. This is a fruit born only by souls who have journeyed far enough, the ability to support others without forcing them into your rhythm, to encourage without imposing, to point the way while honoring each person's distinct journey. The completion of one stage does not mean the end of the story. It means you are ready for another level of faithfulness, less noisy, less dramatic, but more enduring. I am not calling you back to old trials. I am calling you forward with an identity that has been formed. What lies ahead may not look the way you expect, but you are no longer afraid as before. For you know that, though the forms may change, the guiding hand remains the same. And that knowing brings a peace not dependent on circumstances. As you stand here between looking back and stepping forward, remember this: everything that has happened has its place in my story. No day has been forgotten. No tear has fallen without meaning. No faithfulness has been overlooked. I have not only led you to where you stand, I have made you into someone who can stand here. And that person, refined, ordered, and anchored, is the greatest gift of the journey. Take a deep breath, and let rest sink into your bones. Let gratitude shape your vision. And when you step into what comes next, whatever name it bears, you will walk no longer as one searching for direction, but as one who knows where they belong, why they were born, and that I am still going before you, walking with you, and standing behind you, from beginning to end, my beloved child. After you have looked back from the height of purpose, after you have understood why every turn was necessary, you enter an even deeper state, rest in knowing. This is not the rest of one who is finished, nor the letting go of one who has given up. It is the rest of a soul that has been rightly placed, of a heart that no longer needs to ask every day whether it is on the right path, whether it is enough, whether it has been left behind. You no longer need constant signs to confirm your worth. You no longer chase approval to feel safe. You know, and that knowing is not loud or showy, but firm like bedrock. You stop living in a mode of proving. Before, without realizing it, many of your efforts were driven by the need to show that you were worthy of opportunity, of calling, of trust, even of love. I allowed you to pass through those seasons so you could discover their limits. For no soul can live healthily while constantly proving its right to exist. When you must prove yourself, you will always fear being taken away. When you rest in knowing, you understand that what I give is not withdrawn by mood, and that my love for you does not fluctuate with performance. Rest changes the way you act. You no longer rush to say yes to secure your place, nor fear saying no lest you be excluded. You no longer scramble into every opportunity, nor shrink back when tested. You walk with the calm of one who is anchored, knowing that what belongs to you will not slip away, and that what does not belong to you will only weary you if you try to hold it. From here, your choices become clearer. You choose because it fits, not because you are afraid. You pause out of wisdom, not discouragement. You move forward out of obedience, not pressure. In this rest, your inner voice changes as well. Before, it may have been filled with questions, comparisons, self-blame, or urgency. Now it grows slower, deeper, and gentler. You no longer speak to yourself with the tone of old judgments. You learn to address yourself with truth and grace, two things that once felt separate within you, now woven together. When you err, you correct without collapsing. When you succeed, you rejoice without swelling. This balance does not come from iron discipline, but from a healed identity. Rest in knowing also reveals a subtle shift in your relationship with me. You no longer come to me only for guidance at every small turn, nor only when turbulence arises. You come because you abide in me. There are moments when you need not speak much. Simply to remain is enough. There are moments when you need not ask. Listening suffices. I am not offended by this maturity. I delight in it. For I do not seek childlike dependence that never grows. I seek mature children who know how to stay close, how to walk on, and how to return when needed. Your relationship with me is no longer driven by urgency, but by familiarity. You will notice that you react less to the outer world. Upheavals still occur. Noise still resounds. Uncertainty still exists, but they no longer shove you as before. Not because you have become indifferent, but because you have a center. That center keeps you from being pulled into extremes, either rushing to rescue everything or retreating to protect yourself. You are present fully, attentively, and selectively. You know when to speak and when to be silent, when to step in and when to stand aside. This is the mark of a soul that has learned the art of being in the middle without being consumed. This rest also opens a new kind of freedom, the freedom to slow down without fear of falling behind. You are no longer obsessed with others' pace, with the speed of the age, with the sense that you must keep up. You understand that every journey has its own rhythm, and that your rhythm has been placed in my hands. When it is time to move quickly, you do so without panic. When it is time to slow down, you do so without guilt. This freedom does not make you less effective, it makes you enduring. Endurance is what all lasting achievement requires. Yet few retain it because they have not learned how to rest. In this rest, you also begin to give others space in a new way. You no longer need to control, to constantly correct, or to prove that you are right. You allow others to grow at their own pace, to err and learn, to slow and then advance. You do not stand above them, nor dissolve into them. You stand beside them, steady, humble, and present. This is a quiet yet profound influence. People do not merely hear what you say, they feel the stability within you. And that stability creates a sense of safety in which others dare to be honest with themselves. Understand this clearly. Rest does not dull your sharpness. It makes you more precise. When you are no longer pulled by fear or by the need to prove, you see more clearly what truly matters. You no longer expend energy on battles that are not yours. You no longer scatter your attention on what produces only noise. Your focus becomes refined, and therefore each action carries greater weight. You do less, yet create a deeper impact. You speak less, yet your words lift more. This is the fruit of rest, not surface efficiency, but the effectiveness of depth. My beloved child, when you rest in knowing, you will no longer fear new chapters. You do not need to know every detail in advance in order to move forward. You do not need to guarantee that everything will be smooth. You have learned the most essential truth: I am enough, not as a comforting phrase, but as a reality proven over time. Therefore, whether what lies ahead feels familiar or unfamiliar, you walk with a different posture, not as one searching for a place to stand, but as one who already has a place and is ready to serve from it. Remain in this rest. Do not rush out of it to chase new callings. It is from rest that the next callings, if there are any, will come with clarity, without pressure, without contradiction. And whether I lead you onward or ask you to remain and care for what has already been entrusted to you, you will stand firm, For you are no longer defined by movement, but by belonging. I have led you far enough for you to know this. There is no place you can go where I am not, and no season you can enter where my grace is not sufficient. My beloved child, now, as you stand at the threshold of completion, I am not inviting you to look back with the mindset of one who is finished, but with the heart of one who has been transformed. This journey does not close with a final period, but with a sacred pause where outward motion quiets so that what has been formed within you can have space to spread. You no longer need to run, nor do you need to hide. You are here, whole, attentive, and aware of where you belong. That very state is the evidence that what I began has reached its proper shape. Even if the path did not resemble what you once imagined, let me say this clearly. My purpose was never merely to lead you through a series of events, but to shape you into someone who can carry light without being burned, carry responsibility without being crushed, and carry influence without losing your soul. If you look back at each stage, the shaking, the delays, the doors closing and opening, the seasons of acceleration and slowing, you will see a single thread woven throughout. I have always prioritized wholeness over speed, depth over appearance, sustainability over display. And now, as you stand in this light, you understand that nothing that happened was unnecessary. In this completion, you will realize something deeply important. Your life itself has become a message, not through loud words, not through dramatic declarations, but through the way you are present in the world. Your calm speaks what many sermons cannot reach. Your quiet faithfulness bears witness to what many slogans fail to sustain. You do not need to explain everything. Your story carries its own weight. And that weight formed through years of walking with me is what will touch the souls I place along your path. As this chapter closes, understand that completion does not mean immobility. It is a stability deep enough that any movement that follows will not cause you to lose direction. You may be led into new roles, or invited to remain and tend what has already been given. Whatever the form, you are no longer ruled by the fear of, am I missing out? You know that what belongs to you will come to you in the right rhythm. And what does not belong to you, no matter how attractive, no longer has the power to pull you away. This freedom is the reward of a soul that has passed through the fire without losing its essence. In the light of completion, I give you a vision that stretches beyond time. You no longer see your life only in short stages or momentary wins and losses. You begin to see generations. You see that the choices you make today become the ground on which others will stand tomorrow. Your words, the way you love, the way you keep boundaries, and the way you face trials, all of these are sowing seeds into a future you may not personally harvest, but others will enjoy. This is when you understand more deeply what it means to live, not only for the present, but for the long flow of grace. There may be moments when you ask, so, what must I do from here? Hear my answer in its simplicity. Continue living as you are living now, in rest, attentiveness, and faithfulness. I do not ask you to seek new trials to prove anything. I do not need you to manufacture motion to feel useful. I invite you to remain in the truth that has been etched deep within you, that you are loved, called, and kept. From that truth, every action you take, even the smallest, carries life. And small things, done in union, create greater impact than great things done in division. As you step out of this chapter, you will carry a gift that not everyone possesses, peace that does not depend on circumstances. That peace does not make you passive, it makes you unmovable. It does not blind you to reality, it gives you strength to face it without collapsing. And in a world that is loud, hurried, and anxious, the peace within you will become a quiet invitation, inviting others to pause, to breathe, and to remember that there is another way, the way of belonging. Remember this, as the work of your life continues to be written, you do not need to return to old lessons to prove that you have learned them. You have learned, you have grown, and if there are moments when you stumble, you do not fall back to the starting line. You simply touch the ground again so you can stand more firmly. Do not fear ordinary days. Do not underestimate quiet moments. It is in ordinary life, lived rightly, that my glory shines most steadily. Now, as these words come to a close, I do not leave you. I do not remain behind. I am with you in every step that follows, whether those steps are marked or unmarked. I am present in quiet mornings, in decisions no one sees, in acts of love that expect no return. And when you look up, whether at a star-filled sky or a day covered with clouds, you will know that the one who led you from the beginning is still there, faithful as he has always been. So walk on, not as one searching for meaning, but as one living from meaning, not as one afraid of tomorrow, but as one who trusts the one who holds all days. This journey closes not so that you will stop, but so that you may move forward with a heart that has been settled, a vision that has been widened, and a soul steady enough to become a place of refuge for others amid changing seasons. Thank you for listening to today's message. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so we can continue together to receive living words, build steadfast faith, and walk in the boundless love of God. Amen.